Hello students. So we are going to continue our discussions in the class 2. First we will have some recap. I have discussed some basic facts about nanomaterials. Today we are going to reiterate those, what, why. And then I am going to talk about some examples from nature as well as man-made nanomaterials, so that you understand why nanomaterials are important. But because this is an online lecture and many of you watch these videos mostly on your mobile phones or maybe in pads, and very few of you watch the videos on the computer. It has been observed and reported that watching videos on a mobile phone is requires you to leaning forward, and that's quite painful, and that's why the average concentration of any student, in fact anybody, on a particular video is about 10 to 15 minutes. So we are going to divide this lecture, which is about 50 minutes duration, into 3 parts, and in between I am going to change over. So let's see how we can do it. So first of all, about the recap, what is a nanomaterial? And in the last lecture, I showed you this particular image. This is basically image obtained for late nanoparticles using transmission electron microscope. What is the transmission electron microscope and how does it operate? We are going to discuss about it later when we talk about characterization. For the time being, we focus on the image. What you see in the image is a small black color or gray color particles dispersed on the screen, right? And at the left hand corner on the bottom part, you see a bar which says this much distance is equal to 100 nanometers. Now this is a linear scale. So using this, we can measure this size, diameter of each of these particles like this, and you can see some of them are very small, of the order of 5 to 10 nanometers, but some are the big, about 20, 25 nanometers. So that means what? This is a 2-dimensional projection of the actual particle in a transmission electron microscope. So that means that in a real material, you have 3 different directions, x, y, and z, right? They are perpendicular to each other. So it says if for any nanometric species or any kind of a material whose one of the dimensions out of these 3 falls below 100 nanometer, it's called a nanomaterial, right? That's what we should remember. So you need not have to have all the dimensions falling in nanometric regime, that is between 1 to 100 nanometers. If you have only one of these 3 dimensions as less than 100 nanometers, then you can call the material as a nanomaterials. And you must remember these aspects, because this is something which you will be coming again and again, and the properties of the nanomaterial will depend upon this dimensionality. So, so that is size range would be of between 1 to 100 nanometers, that I have already told you. So material can have 1, 2 or 3 external dimensions in the nanoscale. Okay, and you can have different forms to it, like you can have rod, you can have wire, tube, fibers, plates, and there are many hundreds of different kinds of types. And you can also have quantum dots. These are very important from the perspectives of magnetic memory, electronic applications, which we will discuss later. Particles are what? Particles are minute piece of matter which is defined by some physical boundaries. That's what is said here. There is a physical boundary here, you see. So the small mass of lead is there within that boundary. That is what is called particle, correct? So this is different from your fiber. Fiber looks like a sheet, okay? Tube will look like a hollow things. Rod is a solid thing, long, and wire is it looks like a thread, thin, and quantum dots is something different which we will discuss later. So this is what is called nanomaterials. Now the question is length scales. So many of you may not be able to understand or may not be able to grasp the length scale. So let us start with a human. Okay, I am not so tall, I am about 1.67 meters. But there are people who are as close as 1.8, 1.9 meters, and tallest one will be even 2 meters. So let us talk about the tallest one. Okay, this is about 2 meters. So 2 meters means 2 into 10 to the power 9 nanometers, because we know 1 nanometer is 10 to the minus 9 meter. So if 1 nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9 meter, okay, so 1 meter is 10 to the power 9 nanometer. That's very easy. So that means a human has a length of 2 into 10 to the power 9 nanometers. Okay, but we never tell that. We always tell it's 2 meters. Now, if you know that sometimes we use a screw or we use a pinhead to tighten something. You must have done in your home, or you must have done in your some kind of repairing a cycle or so. So pinhead is of the order of 1 10 to the power 6. That's its nanometer. That means what? 1 10 to the power 6 nanometer. That means it's about millimeter. That's it. Because 1 millimeter is 10 to the power minus 3 meter. So that means 1 millimeter is 10 to the power 6 nanometers. That's what it is. And you can see that actually, because millimeter you can usually see. Now, if you look at red blood cells, they are approximately about 10 to the power 3 nanometers. That means what? 1 micron, because 1 micron is 10 to the power minus 6 meters. So therefore, this is about 10 to the power 3 nanometers, right? Easily you can understand that. But you can't see a red blood cell. You can cut a vein and get blood out of it, but you will never be able to see your red blood cells. To see it, you have to go to under optical microscope or some kind of a microscopes. Microscopes allows you to see something which cannot be seen by normal naked eyes. Now, we can still go down, because you know the basic unit of a living being is DNA or RNA. We are talking about coronavirus. Virus contains mostly RNA and ribonucleic acid. But the higher order people, like human or even primates or even fishes, there are many, they have basic building block as a deoxyribonucleic acid. And deoxyribonucleic acid looks like a double helix structure. You must have read in your biology. If you have not read, you can still go into it. So DNA is of the order of 2.5 nanometers. So as we see here, it is 10 to the power 9, 10 to the power 6, 10 to the power 3, here 2.5 nanometer. So we are going down, right, in the scale. So slowly you are going down. A taller human, cut it down to blood cells, then cut it down to DNA, and then if you want to go to a matter, because DNA consists of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. If you want to go to one hydrogen atom, what is the size of that? It's about 0.56 nanometers. Right? No, it's less than that. It's about, carbon atom is about 0.89 Armstrong. And you know 1 Armstrong is to the minus 1 nanometers. Okay? So that's basically a hydrogen atom is about 10 to 0.56 Armstrong. That means equal to 0.056 nanometer. That's what it is. That's the building block. So atoms build DNAs, DNA builds cells, cells build a human. So that is the length scale you must remember. So that means what? Nanometric length scales varies between 1 to 100 nanometers. Almost everything of DNA or even atoms, all of them will come into that picture. Most of the atoms actually sub-nanometers, because they are in Armstrong scale. That's why this new scale was discovered in the name of Armstrong, which is Swedish things. So that's what it is. Now, if you put all the scales together, you have astronomical scales like galaxies. Okay, they are very big galaxies. You know, they can be of the order of 10 to the power 22 meters. Okay, they are like light years distance from each other. 1 light year is how much? 1 light year is 9.5 10 to the power 615 meters. 1 light year is what a light traveling at the speed of 1,86,000 meters per second for a year. That's what is 1 light year. So that is what you will get. Earth to sun distance is much more than that. It's 1.5 10 to the power 11 meter. Earth to moon distance is much smaller. That's why we can go to moon actually and make colonies. You can hear a lot of talks about it. Correct. So now you can also then come down to 10 to the power 7 meters, 10 to the power 4 meters, human. Okay, you know that diameter of a hair is 10 to the minus 6 meter. Then you can molecular scale, atomic scale, electron, neutron, proton, all kinds of things. So you can go down from 10 to the power 18 meters to 10 to the minus 15 meters. That's the scale. And these are all known as, GTA, Exa, Pera, Giga, Mega, Kilo. You may have heard of Mega, Giga, but never heard of GTA. GTA is 10 to the power 18, Exa 10 to the power 15, right? So these scales you've never heard of it. These scales actually, but at the bottom side you see milli, micro 10 to the power minus 6, milli 10 to the minus 3, nano 10 to the minus 9, pico 10 to the minus 12, picometer, and gemio is equal to the minus 50. We have also one 10 to the minus 18 called octo. So you understand that. Now we can always see in any building or anything which is rail, building, road, they are in the scale of between 10 to the power 12 to 10 to the power 3. Okay, roads, thousands of kilometers, correct? Or 10 to the power 6 kilometers, distance from one place to other place. Then engineering things like a train is something like 100 meters long, or you can have a car of the order of 1.5 meters long, or maybe 2 meters long, right? Household products, that's very small. Okay, think of a micro oven, it's less than a meter long. Okay, our electronics, phone is very small, it's about how much distance, maybe something like about 15 centimeters or 20 centimeters long, right? Now if you go down still, you have electronic components that is there inside your mobile phone. If you open it up, you can see that ICs and other things, not by naked eyes, but you can try to open and see, but don't ever open. Only when your mobile phone is damaged, or suppose accidentally put it in water, or water has fallen into it, or something happened, then it is gone. So you can then open it and see. And then you can have also thin films, multi-layers, carbon nanotubes, which you cannot see by naked eyes. You have to go to a microscope to see them. So you understand, right? From buildings to nanotubes. But nanotubes can be used to make buildings also. You can strengthen the structures. That's what is the beauty of nanomaterials. So this length scale you must keep in mind, okay? When you are talking about something which is nanometric, so how to scale it up? How to understand relative length scale? This is something people sometimes forget to correlate. They started thinking that nanometer is something abstract thinking. It is beyond something which cannot be conceived, okay? Okay, now why you study nanomaterials? This is something which I have all discussed already. When you make a material in nanometric scale, what is happening? The atom sitting on the surface, number of atoms sitting on the surface becomes very large compared to total number of atoms, okay? So as you go down the size from, let's say, micron to nanometric to about even much smaller, 1 nanometer, the number of atoms sitting on the surface is keep on increasing, okay? And this one source. This is the x-axis in dimension nanometers, y-axis is a fraction of the surface atoms. Fraction means percentage. So if you look at carefully, 1 millimeter size, a pinhead of the several millimeters, only 10 to the minus 3% of atoms sitting on the surface. We don't care even that, because they don't even make any effect on the properties of that, correct? So now if you go to 1 micron size, it is pretty small, or let's say about between 1 micron and 50 microns, such size of a hair, then it's about 0.1%, between 0.1 to 0.01% of atoms sitting on the surface. That's not very large. That's why you can put oil into your hair, put in shampoo or something, you can grow the hairs beautifully, right? Many people do that. Or you can actually have a different kind of hairstyle, because surface area is not large, okay? For hair, what is important is its connectivity, root of the hair on the skull. That's what actually dictates everything. That's why everybody is interested to remove all kinds of things on the skull by using shampoo. So now if you go down to 10 to the power 100 nanometers, so and between 100 and 10 nanometers, you can clearly see it's about 1 and 10% of atoms sitting on the surface. But what becomes very rapid between 10 and 1 nanometer, you see that it is approximately about 90% sitting on the surface of the particle. That is why you see very interesting change when you go from millimeter to nanometer. Millimeter size things will be, properties will be dominated by the bulk atoms, not the surface atoms, because surface atoms are small fractions, they do not actually participate in the whole property determination. You can forget them, you can say get lost, we do not care about you. But surface atoms become important when you go to nanometric domain. That is why nanomaterials are unique, because there you cannot ignore 10%, 15% surface atoms sitting on the surface. You can't no longer ignore that. You have to consider them, because these atoms sitting on the surface, all bonds are not satisfied. There are bonds which are unsatisfied, and these unsatisfied bonds will increase the energy of the system, and that is what gives them unique properties. And that is why we are interested to study nanomaterials. And there are many more. Okay, I already told you about Richard Feynman in the last class, and he said there is plenty of room at the bottom, that is at a small scale. So you can use transistors using carbon nanotubes. You can use capacitors. Capacitors, they can retain charges. So you can use supercapacitors. You can build a lot of charges between interfaces if you create using graphene or nanotubes. You can use nanomaterials to deliver drugs. How do you do that? We will see later. But very simply, you can actually change the properties of the material by making it nanometric scales. Okay, you can. This is a small cartoon which tells you how these drugs can be delivered to a particular cell to treat. Okay, nanotechnology has changed a lot. So now that's about my first part of lecture. That is about 17 minutes duration. Okay, I suited up a little bit. So now, very important to come back to you. So, these nanomaterials are there everywhere. Think about coronavirus. How many of you have seen the picture of coronavirus? All of you have seen on the TVs, mobile phones. What is the size you think? Can you see by naked eyes? Answer is no. You cannot see. Can you see by optical microscope? Answer is no. You can't see. You have to go to electron microscopes where resolution is pretty high. So why? Because these viruses are very small. Think about it, a small nanometric level virus of the order diameters of 100 or 200 nanometers is making the whole world going into spin. This is something amazing, okay. So humans are nothing, okay, when in terms of the virus. Virus can change the whole world dynamically and also human life. Okay, that's what this is, a virus is. Now the question is, how, nanomaterials, are they new in the world? If you ask me this question, I already told you they are not new. They are already present in the earth always. Correct? They are there, they will be there. Only we are rediscovering it. In fact, if you ask myself, everything we do in today's world, nothing but rediscovering from the mother nature. We don't do anything new. Okay? All existing in mother nature, we are trying of rediscovering it. That's what it is. So why I am giving these examples to you? You must be worrying that this professor is making us bored. Idea of this lecture is not to make you bored. Idea of this lecture is to know that nature is more versatile than human. We always think I am a versatile guy. I can do a lot of things. I can play music, I can do cooking, I can do painting, I can do study, I can do repair mobile phones. I am a versatile guy. But we are peanuts in compared to nature. Nature has everything built in, all the things built in for thousands of years, okay, even more, okay, lakhs or crores of years. So you cannot beat that. Human life is only hardly 100 years maximum. So you can't beat that. So that's what it is. That's why we need to know nature more. So let's first see that. There are a lot of natural nanomaterials. If you see a volcanic eruptions, the kind of dust and spume come up. Each of these contains fine scale nanoparticles. We never bother. We only bother about the damage it creates. We only see that. Okay. Then you see this is the virus, this is the coronavirus, right? They exist in nature. Then you can also have dust, right? Dust, sand, they can be there, in that there will be also small nanoparticles, but they are not bad or so bad as compared to human made. What are these? Factories, big factories getting a lot of pollutions, and these pollutions are nothing, polluting agents are nothing but nanoparticles. They can easily go through your nose and lungs and create various diseases. If you burn a coal, or if you burn some kind of a coke or wood, you create a lot of dust. They also contains that. See, not only that, in the laboratory also you can create. In the laboratory you can create dangerous nanomaterials, which can be used as a weapon to damage human or society. So, man-made nanomaterials are more than human. No, answer is not correct. Man has learned from nature, but they have disturbed the nature. That is what it is. Okay, you will see that later as I keep on discussing that. Well, this is the picture taken from a website given in Japanese. You see the bacteria, movement of bacteria flagella. You can see every bacteria will have several flagella. These are like legs of a human. With that they can navigate, they can move. Gecko, we will discuss more about it. It has these legs which allow you to jump, just like a SpiderMan, right? You have seen SpiderMan movies. SpiderMan jumps on one from to one place. So these are also like that, but do the spider works, or what is the thing? We will see that. Well, the color of butterflies are also because of nano pigments present in that. Or you can see these color on the skin, Lymphocyphus augustus, very difficult name to remember, correct? We can also create semiconductor devices, which is used in mobile phone, or even in your laptop, in your PCs. There also you have these kind of structures built in, or you can create what is known as some kind of morphological structures. So all these are actually either human made or natural. So I should put it here also, man-made, right? So now let us discuss one by one. This is a picture of a HIV virus, very dangerous, right? You know that. There is no cure for that. Now this scale, you should remember this one. This is a linear scale. Length of this thing is about 10 nanometers. So what will be the length of that? About 200 nanometers. That's what it is. So this virus is tiny things which you can't see by eyes, you cannot see even by normal microscope. You have to go to electron microscopy, see that, and it can create havoc in your body. This is ferritin molecule. This diameter of it 12 nanometers. Why it is important? Because that is what is present in your RBC, and this iron-based molecule allows this RBCs to carry oxygen from lungs to the heart to the various parts of the body. And if you have anemia, these cells will be not able to function properly, right? So you can see this nanomaterials is the essential part of life. They are always present everywhere, right? Now come back to the best part of the natural nanomaterial. Photosynthesis is something which you should, all of you know that. You're studying from your school level, class 7, 8, 9, 10, even, So leaves, they look like green, and that's why the photosynthesis is happening, correct? As you know. This is one of the most beautiful example of nanostructured materials. You must understand that. What is it? Well, what is photosynthesis? This tree leaves, takes carbon dioxide, CO2 from the air, and water. The root sucks water, combine them in presence of sunlight. Remember this, in presence of sunlight, and produces what? Produces the two most important things for our life. One is oxygen, without which we cannot live in this world. Other one is a glucose, and that gives you food. All the fruits, everything you see, they are different variations of this product. But most importantly, the oxygen is important. Now, how does it happen? To look at it, it contains what is known as leaves contains chloroplast. That is what is the basic unit, okay? And photosynthesis happens inside this chloroplast. You know, these units which are responsible for the green color of your plants, okay, they are actually present in millions and millions, okay? But you know, each chloroplast contains very important unit called thylakoids. Okay, you see this is the picture of inside a chloroplast. What are these thylakoids? They are actually disc, nanometer size disc. They are actually fluid filled sacs, okay, sac. Okay, so they are sitting on each other. But this thylakoid disc contains color sensitive pigments, and that's very important. These color sensitive pigments absorb the sunlight, and that's responsible for this photosynthesis. Okay, and you know, efficiency of this process is 95%, which is very, very high compared to any other process. It's a natural process, and using nanometric length scale happening inside on the tree leaves. Okay, so now these pigments which is present on the thylakoid surface, they absorb the sunlight. So as the sunlight they absorb photon actually, H nu. Photon is nothing but H nu, you know that, the Planck's theory. So that means once they absorb this light, the energy, it excites the electrons. Then these excited electrons comes on the surface of these thylakoids and dissociate water into oxyl and hydroxyl ions, and then subsequent reaction happens, right? Subsequent reaction means chain reaction happens. I am showing you here the whole reaction. Let us not discuss about it. It's quite complex, but remember these thylakoid things, they contains a lot of different units. You see long needle-like structure, okay, and all of them contain manganese. Manganese is what is responsible for the things, manganese centers. So if this is what is the thing, then why can't you mimic it? Well, if you can mimic it, you know, the plants within the earth produces about 300 millions, billions of sugar per year. That's a huge production, okay, huge, massive productions. That is the amount of food produced in the world every day, every year. So now the question is, why can't you do it? The reason we cannot do is because of this structure. There's 10,000 atoms, atomic scale structure present in these thylakoids, which is so nicely arranged. The electrons, once excited, they hop from one center to other center without decaying back to the original. That's the key, right? So they don't decay back to the original at all. That's what it is. We can't create a systems which will not decay back to the original state and keep on doing that. So that means electrons are keep on moving from one center to other, reaching the surface. So in presence of sun, it becomes a battery. Electrons on the surface, positives up in the inside of the thylakoids, and this long battery is keep on running to produce you something. So you understand that. That's the beauty of photosynthesis. It happens because of the nanostructured thylakoid disc, which contains the pigments. That pigments allows you to absorb the sunlight in terms of photons. Photons excite the electrons in the thylakoids, and then the electrons jump over from the reaction center one to other centers and leads this whole process. Well, that's another example of nature which I should finish before my another 15-minute slot, is that, you know, bacteria, okay, they're very important. And this, I'm giving you the bacteria which are known as magnetotactic bacteria. Magneto, okay, a G is missing here, magnetotactic bacteria. Magneto means magnet, tactic means which can move. You know, there are some bacteria which live in the swampy waters, okay. Why do they live in some swampy waters? They need oxygen. But bacteria are very funny, unlike viruses. They need food. But you know, they need oxygen to create energy also, to burn the food actually. We also need oxygen for many things. So now, this bacteria should not, if the, you know, the oxygen content in the water, in the ocean, depends on the depth. Deeper the water, lesser the oxygen contents. but oxygen is more on the surface of the water. So now, if the bacteria must know what is the optimum level of depth they should be there to absorb oxygen, how do they know that? They use these small nanometric magnets, okay, to know their depth, correct, to move. We were saying how it is possible. Well, these magnets are very powerful. They align themselves or they interact with the earth magnetic field. So now you understand how an earth magnetic field is so important. It is pretty weak. We cannot feel it, but these bacteria can feel it. Looking at the earth magnetic field, they can align themselves. Why? Because see, these nanometric size bacteria are single domains. Okay, they are single crystals of ferritic nanocrystals. So each one is very high, magnetic moments. So they can, because of that, even though earth magnetic field is small, they can still interact with it. And if you look at properly, they align in a particular way. Okay, they have a particular shape, they align in a particular way, always. And that's strengthen the magnetic field interactions. This is really beautiful. And these bacteria store a lot of information. They normally don't die, they get frozen in the ice or something. So if you can get out of them, and if you analyze these nanocrystals, you know what is the concentration of these elements in the water. Because this is where they make these crystals form on the surface of these bacteria. They are present there. Okay, so you have seen the two most beautiful examples of the one is from plant, other one is from bacteria. Virus I have already given. So this is very important that we understand them, because from there we can learn a lot of things. So who knows how they are forming? We can use their analogy to create different structures, right? So now, so this is a very interesting part of this lecture. This is the last part of the lecture. SpiderMan 1, SpiderMan 2, SpiderMan 3, all these movies, many of you have watched, right? And you want to become SpiderMan, okay? SpiderMan can solve the whole world's problem. That's what is shown. That is not possible, it's impossible. A man cannot solve all problem of the world. Obviously, it can solve, but that's a dream, okay? That's basically a big dream, correct? So basically, it's a dream. So these dreams very difficult to realize. But SpiderMan's got the properties from a spider. That's what is shown here. How many of you know this spider is also nanomaterials? Very few people, right? Spider is nothing but a peculiar species. Okay, it creates what is nothing but a silk. And this silk, let me tell you very interestingly, even if a plane moving at a speed of 800 kilometers per hour, using this spider web, you can bring it to halt. The spider web can absorb so much energy. It has that capability. Nobody ever dreamed of it, okay? Nobody ever thought about it. Only when it was discovered. So that means spider is wonderful things. That's why the SpiderMan movie came into picture. But never try to attempt yourself. You can break your leg or something by jumping. Okay, let us go back to geckos. Geckos are something which you have seen. They are actually lizard, and you have seen in your home, right? You could have seen these lizards can run on the walls. Even they can move on the ceiling. Even they can walk on glassy floats. Also. Glassy floats mean on the ceiling actually. How do they do it? Okay, they don't fall off. A human trying, they will fall. They are able to do it because of keratin. Keratin which is present in the hair. These keratin fibers which are present in the gecko, keratin hairs, they have just shown here, you can see that keratin hairs. Each of these legs has a lot of keratin hairs. It's actually millions of keratin hairs. This keratin hairs has a diameter of, you can see here, 200 nanometers. And each of this keratin hair, when the gecko putting the feet on the surface, produce a force of 10 to the minus 7 Newton, minus 7. This is nothing but so small you cannot detect. But with a million or billions of these hairs, force become very high, 10 to the 10 Newton per centimeter square, very high force. So with this large force, then this hair can bend and conform to the surface morphology. You understand that, right? Whatever the surface morphology, whether it's a glass, there is some roughness, it is not zero roughness. So that, depending on roughness, these fibers, keratin hairs actually, not fibers, they can conform to the surface and then they can get attached. That is the thing they use. So you can use this technology to create tapes, okay, the binding tapes, okay, you use in your home, to pack something, use this kind of tapes, adhesive tapes, right? You can do that. So these tapes will be very strong then, right? Obviously. So you can use microfabrication techniques to create these kind of things, which is possible. Now, what is about the silk, the spider web? Okay, spider web is very fascinating. It's a composite. This is not a hair. It contains crystals in a polymeric matrix. The spider webs are nothing but a raw silk which is produced by this spider. And when this raw silk is passing through these channels inside the body of the spider, they form, some of these portions become crystals. And these crystals get aligned in particular directions. So what you have is aligned crystals like in the bacteria, aligned crystals like this, okay, like this, but they are not inorganic crystals, they are organic crystals in a kind of a matrix. Crystals and matrix have same structures. So interfacial strength is very high. There is no interfacial tension, not much. And because of that, it becomes very strong material. That's why if you have a spider web and if a plane is moving at a high speed, it can stop it. That's the reason, it can absorb all the energy. So that's the one of the best examples of natural nanomaterials which you can see here. We'll see much more here. Yes. Many of you have gone to zoos, right? I've seen this rhino. Rhino has horns, either one horn or two horns. If you go to Kanjiranga, you will have one horn rhinos. If you go to Africa, you will have two horn rhinos. I know why, but I don't want to discuss it here. You should know it, why it is so. Okay. So now, these are actually pretty strong elements, okay. They are like elephants. They fight each other, but you will never see these horns are getting broken. You can go and check in National Geographic or Discovery channels. You will see rarely 1 in 1 lakh cases only these horns will get broken. So that means these horns are really strong and tough. How do they make it? Okay. See, these horns are made up of again keratin fibers, okay, in terms of microtubules, okay. So if you look at this, these are the microtubules, densely packed. You can see here on this picture, each one is a microtubule. Microtubule means there's a hole inside it. That's why you see the black things, okay. So there's a black thing. So 40 layers of these keratin fibrils are aligned or putting one by one layer, another layer, third layer, fourth layer, like 40 layers. And each of these things contains 40 layers of these microfibrils of keratin fibers. And these are densely packed. How you can pack them? By hexagonal array. Okay, in a hexagonal array, if you pack it, you can densely pack. That is the highest packing efficiency in the world. Okay. So you can put one here, one there, one there, one there, another there, and center. That's what it is. In your crystallography lectures, right? Densely packed. You can see here it is done. I can draw in a hexagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see that? The central atom. That is what it starts to be. So the hair also you can see here on this surface. External array. 1, 2, 3, 4, correct. 5, 6, and the central one. So that's it. So now, and these are packed in a matrix, also keratin matrix. So because both are keratin, interfacial energy is very small. and they have a huge toughness. You can't break them at all. And this is the reasons these horns are extremely costly. In Africa, these rhinos are killed for this horn only, because people believe this is the strongest, toughest material in the world. So now you know why it is. So these are all these micropebbles have dimensions of nanometric level. Okay, I can give you that. Each of these tubules at about 300 to 500 micron diameter, because there are 40 layers of that, and each layer is about 3 to 5 nanometers. So it's basically a hierarchical structure, right? You see, remember the last lecture? The hierarchical structures are developed one by one another. That's how it's created. So that's how the horns are tough and strong. So if you want to create a stop and turn material, which is dream for any material scientist in the world, you have to follow these multi-hierarchical structures, multi-length scales, nanometer, micrometer, millimeter kind of, or centimeter kind of structures, and pack it nicely. Now, natural nanomaterials can repair themselves. Have you ever thought of it? Right. Suppose you play football and one of your friend has hit it hard and you've broken your leg. Then what doctors will do? They will plaster your leg and they'll ask you to sit at home for 1 month. That's very painful, right? Nowadays it's not painful. You can use mobile phones and watch videos, movies, and many things you can do. You can come in contact with friends, right? You can talk to them. So it's not boring. Earlier, when I broke my leg at the age of 8 or 9, I had to sit at home for 21 days. I was reading only books, right? There's no other option, no TVs, nothing. So nowadays we have so many things to do. But anyway, then finally what happens at the end of 21 to 30 days, your bone is repaired. That's the beauty of bone. So bone gets remolded every 12 years in your body. That's what something you've heard from your doctors maybe. Why? Because bones actually have the hierarchical structures, okay? Correct. So bones are what? They are composites again. Inorganic, organic. What is organic? Collagen fibers. Okay, that's the collagen cells, okay? And what is inorganic part? Hydroxyapatite, apatite crystals. They are nanometric. They are very hard but brittle. So you are putting hard and brittle materials in a tough matrix like collagen. And this collagen matrix is putting in extra, what is that called? Extra, outside the matrix, some matrix is present, which is called something, let me see, what's extra fibular materials, okay? Collagen fibers are separated from each other by extra fibular materials. They are also basically body cells, okay, which consist of extra fibular collagens, okay, and apatites are there in the collagen I told you. So you see that this is what it is, correct? This is the extra fibular mineral particles here, and this is what is your apatite crystals in a collagen fiber, right? And this is between these two structures. So you can see that this is the mineral platelets, and this is the collagen matrix. You see, this is the plates, and this is the collagen matrix. And this whole thing is put it here, and then in between, then you can put another one here. In between these two, you can have a extra fibular mineral. Okay, they are separating each other. Basically, they are binding each other, right? That's what it is. Now, this gives them very strong and tough things. That's why it doesn't break so easily. Only when you are hit hard, then only you can break your leg or something, or your hand. I've broken my leg, I've broken my hand. I was a very naughty child in my childhood. So the question is this: this is a hierarchical structure. Once the bone is broken, between the two parts there are sensors actually. They can see that something is wrong. There is no connectivity. So the moment they can sense these sensors, they remove all this blood cross, everything from that part. Then the sensors come and meet. So by the way, then they can sense the distance, how much required to build the bone. Then they bring all the materials. They bring blood, they bring everything, and then they slowly, the bone is repaired. So can you imagine that? At the nanometric scale, you are remolding the bone. Okay, that's the beauty of this. So bone is also hierarchical structures. Scales from nanometric to centimeter, meter. Your femur bone is something like half a meter. right? It's pretty long. Depending on the height of you, the human bone is pretty long. Okay, another important thing is the human brain. Remember, we have never understood human brain, right? But if you understand human brain, you can understand your computer. You can actually produce better computers, right? So what is the basic unit of human brain? Is nothing but a nerve cell. A nerve will axon and dendrite. This is the axon and this is the dendrite, right? Oh, I'm sorry, this is the dendrite, this is the axon, right? So they are also hierarchical nanostructures and they are connected to each other, right? That's what it is. You know, a neuron actually requires to spend only 10 to the minus 15 joules per operation. I am speaking each of my sentences, what I am speaking needs only 10 to the minus 15 joules, which is very small. On the other hand, a computer requires 10 to the minus 7 joules per operation. It's almost double, sorry, not double, 10 to the plus 8 orders of magnitude higher. That's the difference between a natural brain and an artificial brain. So we are long away to mimic our brain. We don't even understand how the brain works. But again, these are all nanostructures. There are very small scale structures present inside your brain. That's what makes you intelligent human being. Okay, now in the last couple of minutes, I will not discuss much, but I will tell you. You know, these paintings you see in various churches and, you know, glass work, everything, but especially in the Western world, you can see that. And how many of you see this glass? This glass is a very typical one, which is donated to Byzantine when he won a war against Constantine. Okay, Constantine in Rome. He won against Licinius in Thrace in 324 AD. This glass, if you shine light from outside, they look like this, the left hand side. But if you shine light from inside, it looks like that. There's a killing of that king is shown there. You can see that actually. So it's basically because of gold particles, nanoparticles present in a glassy matrix, distributed properly. Very small fraction of that. That's what gives you this light. Same thing valid here also in the paintings. Okay, so this is a painting from Mayan civilization in Mexico. Okay, long back. Even you can see there's an animal or some kind of a very careful species encrypted here. Okay, Mayan civilization is very interesting. You should see some of the movies in the Hollywood movies where things are shown, right? So once it's analyzed, you've seen there are gold nanoparticles present there. So this is how the colors are built up. So you must be thinking, where from they got into gold nanoparticles? They have got it from colloids or maybe some mines actually. It is present there. So naturally available. In those days, you know, Mayan civilization is, you know, about 1000 or 1500 before birth of Christ. In those days, there's no chemistry route to prepare nanoparticles, but they are utilizing it to make it beautify these paintings. Okay, let me stop here. So I have given you 3 sets of things in 3 duration. I will divide the lecture also 3 durations so that you can understand. So these are the examples of nanomaterials which are used in the real life, naturally and man-made, to create different structures. So the next lecture we will move one step further and discuss about how we can classify nanomaterials, how you can, you know, differentiate between one from the other nanomaterials. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll come back.